On this edition of In the Life, gay Muslims reconciling Islam and sexual identity, plus Oscar-winning screenwriter Alan Ball on his conflicted characters.
I have a lot of anger, and my work is a big conduit for that, I think.
And Harvey Fierstein sets us straight about who's gay. All this and more on In the Life, America's gay and lesbian cultural news magazine.
In the Life is funded in part by the H. Van Ameringen Foundation. Additional support provided by the Gill Foundation, the Ted Snowden Foundation, the Otto Haas Charitable Trust, the Overbrook Foundation, the Rainbow Endowment, William J. Resnick, Jeff Soreff, the Arcus Foundation, and the annual support of In the Life members like you.
Welcome to In the Life. I'm Katherine Linton. What do the critically acclaimed film American Beauty and the popular HBO series 6 Feet Under have in common? Well, they both center around dysfunctional families, and they're both written by Alan Ball. Ball has found great success creating characters, both straight and gay, who battle conflicts and contradictions in themselves. On this edition of In the Life, Academy Award-winning writer Alan Ball reveals the secrets behind the compelling characters he's created for screens, both big and small. We visit a New York medical clinic with a mission, providing affordable health care and a safe haven to the gay and lesbian community.
But it's just on the right side.
And what made you wait to come in?
I don't have insurance.
Okay.
Correspondent Andy Hum is out and about and briefs us on stories from around the country. And writer-actor Harvey Fierstein with an outtake on who's gay in Hollywood.
Are you listening? 'Cause I'm only going to say this once, and then I'm done. Ready? Here goes.
But first, a story about a religion very much in the news today and very much misunderstood by most Americans, Islam. While attitudes towards homosexuality vary from country to country, culture to culture, many gay and lesbian Muslims are struggling to reconcile their sexuality and their religion. In some Islamic countries, coming out of the closet can mean a death sentence. In fact, we were unable to find any lesbians willing to be on camera for this story. Still, growing numbers of gay Muslims are finding ways to break down stereotypes and change the way Islam is interpreted. One such person is Faisal Alam, a Pakistani-American living in Washington, D.C., who grew up in an Islamic family. His story is emblematic of the struggle gay Muslims face at the often stormy intersection of religion and sexuality.
The first thing that people always tell me when they hear about being gay and Muslim, especially before Al-Fatihah started, was it's an oxymoron. The two can't ever go together in one way. And that's really sort of the struggle of gay Muslims all over the world, is that you have to pick one of these two identities. When I went off to school in Boston, Massachusetts, that's really when I began to put a name to what I was feeling inside. I was Brother Faisal Alam, during the daytime secretary of the Islamic Society at Northeastern University, in Boston, and very much involved in the Muslim Student Association, and at night going out and clubbing and hanging out with my friends and, staying out till the wee hours in the morning. And those sorts of two lives really came crashing down in November of 1997 when I really just had a nervous breakdown and could not really function anymore. And it was when I was in the hospital for about 2.5 weeks when I said that I can't live these two dual lives anymore and that I need to figure out how to bring the two together. And that's when sort of the process of trying to find out who else was out there began. So I sent out a message to Muslim student associations to find out if anyone else was also struggling with the issues of being gay and Muslim. Within minutes, people had started subscribing to this internet listserv. And it was the first time that, to our knowledge, that people really had a safe forum to come together and talk about different issues.
Author Michelangelo Signorile was one of the first writers to take note.
It's a testament to the power of the internet
that perhaps one of the most underground subcultures imaginable, gay and lesbian Muslims, could come to the surface, and that people could organize and communicate globally.
Alam organized a 3-day-long retreat in Boston, Massachusetts for gay and lesbian Muslims to come together, meet, and talk about the issues facing them. The retreat became the genesis of the organization.
The retreat's theme was Al-Fatiha, which comes from the first chapter of the Holy Quran, which is the holy book of Muslims. And Al-Fatiha means the opening or the beginning. So it became an appropriate title for the organization.
We asked 4 members of Al-Fatiha into our studio to talk about growing up gay and Muslim.
You know, if somebody just meets me and they ask me my name, then they just assume that you're heterosexual, that you're conservative, you know. And I just play along with it. And I'm like, yeah, my dad had 7 wives. I'm gonna marry the 2nd one, you know. And then in the end, I'm like, you know, please, get a life. I'm a homosexual. I'm going to meet my boyfriend in a bar for a drink. Does that help you?
I believed in Islam. I believed in being right, and believed like I cannot deny myself something that I felt was very natural. And when I felt that, and when I had some friends who, when I came out to them, they were like, you know, what about religion? I'm like, well, if God is saying if it's such a bad thing, then he would tell me why it's bad, and he would show me a way to stop it.
When I did finally come out and my parents knew that I was gay, my relationship with my father was damaged beyond repair. Eventually, he and my mother moved back to the Middle East after he retired. A year later, I got a call from my mom asking if she could come live with me. I was in grad school at the time. Because my father had decided, since I was not going to, I'm an only son, and since I was not going to carry on the family name, that it was now his responsibility. At 70 years of age, decided that he was going to have an arranged marriage with another woman and produce more offspring.
I needed to come out. I absolutely needed it for myself, but in that cultural context, I don't think it's necessary. And I think, and I know others who are Moroccan from both sides of the family, and from devout families, they haven't had any problems. Their family knows.
I think it's a very complicated mix of culture and politics and religion.
Islam says that all people who believe in one God are good people of the book. And my mom was Christian, so I was like, oh, at least she's okay. But whenever I listen to Christians talking about people who weren't Christian, it's like they're all going to hell. So I was like, well, you know, these two religions, like at least this, you know, Islam is a little bit broader and more open-minded. I feel more comfortable being in that religion and thinking both my parents are going to be okay than listening to what my mother's religion says and thinking my father's going to hell and so am I.
There has been, as in Christianity, 1 or 2 passages that are constantly used by various groups and blown up and deemed the word. And of course you see in Islam, just as in Christianity, other things that are in the Quran that tend to be ignored or decided upon as things that are no longer important.
Islam's interpretation has really been influenced by the culture in each country that it spreads to. So, and that really has a lot to do with sort of the treatment of gay people as well in Muslim countries.
In a recent article, Signorile reported on how Islamic law is used to intimidate and oppress.
It is according to the Taliban's reading of Islamic law that homosexuals are to be put to death with a wall falling on them. In one of the cases that I was looking at, 3 men survived and were in the hospital with most of the bones of their bodies broken and were free to go after that because, according to Taliban law, somehow they were exonerated if their lives were spared by God. The official Taliban radio will announce it on the air and really make a big thing out of it and let people know that these people were put to death because of their homosexuality. Often will say that these people confessed.
In Egypt, while the death penalty isn't on the books, gay Muslims have been publicly humiliated, arrested, even tortured.
On May 11th, I began receiving emails from an anonymous man in Egypt. And he told a story which was extremely disturbing about a police raid on a discotheque which was rumored to be a gathering place for gay men, of dozens of men who had been arrested, of men being held in prison incommunicado. At least 52 men had been held for months without charges being pressed, without the opportunity for bail, where they're being put to trial without the opportunity for appeal. The Egyptian government decided that it needed to turn around and, as it were, throw a bone to fundamentalist forces. And the bone they threw took the form of the lives of 52 gay men.
They counted me because they needed a body.
On November 14th, 23 of the Cairo 52 were convicted of contempt of religion and obscene behavior and sentenced to between 1 and 5 years hard labor.
These people are really being used as an example by the Egyptian government to again send a fear throughout the population. Islam is not universally a religion in which any country where people are predominantly Muslim will oppress homosexuals. It is about governments and what they do with religious law.
Al-Fatiha, now 300 members strong, representing more than 20 countries, from Egypt to Malaysia, reaches out to gay and lesbian Muslims around the globe by providing a safe forum to share ideas, experiences, and resources.
I don't think it's about compromising one aspect of your life versus the other, but creating new paths and creating new ways of practicing your Islam while still being gay. And Islam is a very community-oriented religion. Al-Fatiha has really helped me sort of create a new family and a new community. I mean, the first time that I had really prayed in a long time was at the first Al-Fatiha conference, where I just burst into tears because it was the first time that I had prayed, with other gay Muslims. And we started off with 5 people, and at the end of the conference, we had 20 people who had participated in prayer. And it was one of the most emotional experiences that a lot of us had gone through. Not one individual, not one ideology has a monopoly over God. And I think a lot of gay religious groups, if you will, both gay Catholics, gay Buddhists, gay Muslims, have really understood that concept, that religion has been hijacked, and that in fact the root of all religious tradition and all religious faith is the notions of peace, love, and justice.
I was working in the White House as a special assistant to President Clinton around the same time when leaders of the gay and lesbian community were organizing the 3rd National March on Washington. We invited the leaders to a meeting with the president in the Oval Office of the White House in response to the march. And as a result, the first ever meeting between a sitting American president and the gay and lesbian community took place in April of 1993. I'm Keith Boykin, and you're watching In the Life.
Healthcare has been a sensitive issue for the gay and lesbian community, which has been largely underserved and often discriminated against, making many reluctant to seek medical help. The Michael Callen-Lorde Community Health Center in Manhattan seeks to provide accessible, comprehensive, and comfortable medical services, regardless of sexual orientation or ability to pay.
The mission of Callen-Lorde is to create a safe space that understands that gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender healthcare is not just an HIV clinic, an STD clinic, or a pap smear clinic, though those things are important, but it's about creating a space where any experience that you have as a gay identified person can be addressed in a sensitive manner and you can feel comfortable.
Even though now we're here, great, we're here, they're still worried, scared about coming in, scared about disclosing, scared about stigmatization that they might face, scared of the discrimination that they might face. And that's only the sort of the emotional pieces of it, and then there's all the economic pieces.
But it's just on the right side.
And what made you wait to come in?
I don't have insurance.
Okay.
Offering services regardless of a patient's ability to pay is costly, and Callen-Lorde depends on support from New York State and community donations in order to meet its mission.
If they come in here and they pay $1 for their care, or they pay nothing for their care, or they pay their bill in full, they get the same care. It gives us an ability to take the money piece out of it and really focus and help people focus on their health care.
As the medical director at Callen-Lorde, Dr. Harbotkin sees many patients who avoid getting routine preventative and primary health care because of financial concern or discrimination.
People know that when something hurts, they should go get health care. It's been very hard to educate the community that there's more to it than that they need to come before they're sick, while they're healthy, so that they stay healthy.
The health center has been operating in the community for over 20 years through various clinics, but in 1998 they received their own license and opened in a new building as the Michael Callen-Lorde Community Health Center.
What we thought was really important was to connect this to an individual, because healthcare is about the relationship as the individual has with their provider. Michael Callen was a longtime AIDS survivor who founded organizations like the People with AIDS Coalition, and Audre Lorde was a poet laureate of New York State and a lesbian of color who also chronicled her struggle with breast cancer in a book called The Cancer Journals. And quotes from both of those individuals are prominently displayed on the wall as you enter the facility. And we think that that empowers every individual who comes into the facility to be able to know that health care is a right, even though they may not have the ability to pay for it.
Okay, and you've been here before?
Coming here to Callen-Lorde as opposed to other hospitals or clinics has been really a godsend. Back in the 90s, I had a really bad accident, had my heel amputated. This was the time that Kathleen was thrown out of Bellevue when she was staying overnight with me, just sitting there because we had no rights.
Yeah, because one nurse told me I could stay because the next day she had a real major surgery. And so she thought it was okay that I stay there for some mental support. And then in the middle of the night, a different nurse came on and she threw me out. And so I ended up sitting in the lobby for the rest of the night until the morning, and then somebody was nice enough to come and get me before she went into surgery. But I didn't have any rights.
Along with her heel injury, Terry must also monitor another health concern, chronic hepatitis.
I was in the 1% that got rid of the hepatitis. That was the good news. Bad news was that after 6 months, it did come back. Because it's like the thing that won't go away.
We'll check your liver, check your kidneys, check you for anemia, make sure the liver's not affecting any of that stuff.
Okay.
Terry has chronic hepatitis, and she went through a year of treatment, which was incredibly traumatic for the both of them. The three of us talked about it together. Terry actually decided to talk to her in the room with me there, the first, and so that they could sort of go through the medical information and then deal with some of the grief issues around that.
Here you can come with your partner, you're part of it. I find that's very important because it's not only the patient that's sick. When a patient is sick, it's a problem for the whole family. And if the family is gay or not gay, it doesn't make a difference. Everybody's involved. And here, everybody is allowed to be involved.
Yeah, it's a big difference from experiences that we had before.
When I first went into primary care, what I liked about it was being able to think of serving a family. To have couples come in and feel comfortable with that has been a really exciting thing for me.
Along with serving adults, Callen-Lorde also addresses the special health care needs of LGBT youth with its health outreach to teens, or HOTT program. Its HOTT van has traveled New York City streets for over 10 years.
The HOTT program is a place where young LGBT people and individuals who are questioning can come for free, confidential medical and mental health care.
I'm usually doing the formal medical care in the back of the van, and Marie sort of administering rather to the young people up front. You know, we'll have a gang member, a transgender kid, and a couple of openly gay kids talking about sexuality. And she's really taught me how to connect with people who have no reason to trust you, you know, and taught me how you begin to establish that kind of trust with people who have been abused in general in their lives, but certainly by the medical system.
For youth who have gone through the program, HOTT is an invaluable resource.
The HOTT program is private. It's like not secret, but everything you do in it is not disclosed. It's for us, for the youth. Like certain things that have to be just for us.
I felt safe. I didn't have to deal with a lot of adults at the time, any mistrust or whatever hidden agendas that other places may have had. I didn't have to worry about that. The HOTT program really, especially the HOTT van, being that it was out there, instead of having to travel all the way to a facility or a hospital where you felt like doctors are kind of gonna judge you, it was kind of like a safe space. And it was actually very comforting. It was really good. It allows the kids to open up and just be who they are.
We consider young people always in transition, but we still offer them services and give them lots of education and information about where they're going and what direction they need, you know, where they are.
Another Callen-Lorde service is its Health Education Resource Center, where trained volunteers and staff help visitors find information.
For someone who is computer friendly or is looking for information on the internet, we can help them by any one of our 4 computer terminals with high-speed access to the internet. And for someone for whom actually the internet might be new, we can walk them through that process. And we have our library of books that's more specific to LGBT people.
If people are in other parts of the country outside of a larger metropolitan area, they can come to our website, which is callen-lorde.org. And we have a listing of other websites that can lead them to options within their own local community.
One of the goals of Callen-Lorde is to make our existence obsolete eventually, to go into places and train healthcare providers to be able to provide the healthcare that we provide, to be sensitive and compassionate and culturally competent and knowledgeable in providing healthcare to the LGBT community.
In the past few years, Callen-Lorde has been asked to participate in several medical research studies. Although it will take years to determine the specific healthcare conditions which might disproportionately affect the LGBT community, science is moving in the right direction.
We are just starting to do research. There's lots of research about men who have sex with men and HIV and STDs. There is very little other research out there. Do we smoke more? Are we more overweight? Do we drink more? Are we more likely to commit suicide? Are we under greater stress? Are we more depressed? We need to have much better studies before we can begin to answer the questions that we all want answers to, which is, what are our healthcare risks?
I'm RuPaul Andre Charles, and you're watching the Emmy Award-nominated gay and lesbian news magazine, In the Life.
The story of a matinee idol who came out of the closet and disappeared from the screen. Civil rights activists and journalists are honored for their work. A groundbreaking documentary about gay Orthodox Jews, and a tribute to a life lived in the musical theater. We'll brief you on these stories and more as we bring you news and cultural events from around the country in Out and About.
The avant-garde is alive and well and on prominent display at the 15th anniversary of Mix, the New York Lesbian and Gay Experimental Film Video Festival. Cutting-edge works showcased the best and latest in experimental film, video, and even installation art at the Anthology Film Archives in New York's East Village.
Sex. Gender.
Mix exists to promote the visions of gay and lesbian artists, bisexual and transgender artists who are working in avant-garde forms and experimental forms, trying to expand the boundaries and the vocabulary of media itself.
The trendier club girls will dance in the upper right corner or move their way to the center portion if a less desirable crowd infiltrates the previous space, such as older lesbians who seem to dance wherever the hell they want, or if one has an ex dancing in that spot. In fact, all the dancing parameters may change if there's a particularly strong dynamic of ex-girlfriends for that evening.
We show all of the works which don't really have a home elsewhere, either in traditional venues for experimental film or in gay and lesbian festivals because of the work's experimental nature.
In these times, you should not expect any words of my own from me.
none but these words, which barely manage to prevent silence from being misinterpreted.
Ain't it pretty?
Mix's 15th anniversary suggested this year's theme, Feliz Quinceañera, a girl's 15th birthday fiesta observed almost everywhere in the Spanish-speaking world. The theme served as a chance for some spirited hijinks by the Mix Festival staff. In Los Angeles recently, a star-studded tribute to legendary composer and lyricist Jerry Herman provided an evening of unforgettable theatrical memories.
Tomorrow morning you're brave, tomorrow morning you're strong.
It's time for the big switch again. I put a little more mascara on.
I think it's timeless music. I think no matter what age and no matter what era you lived in, the music spoke to you on so many levels. And so much of it was about self-acceptance and self-love.
Was I soft or was I tough? Did I give enough?
Jerry always writes about things that really touch you and move you and says something about the life that we all live. He writes music about that. And that's what makes it so wonderful to sing, because you can relate to something that's happened in your life.
The tribute was a benefit for the Actors Fund of America, the only national nonprofit organization that provides for the welfare of professionals working in film, television, radio, music, opera, dance, and theater.
Canada dry.
So, bridge the gap, fellas.
The evening's highlight came when Broadway's original Mame, Angela Lansbury, appeared on stage with Broadway's original Dolly, Carol Channing.
Somebody's singing my song. You coax the blues right out of the horn, Mame. You charm the husk right off of the corn, Mame.
The event raised a total of $150,000 for the Actors Fund.
Beautiful for spacious skies.
Attendees were feeling patriotic at the Empire State Pride Agenda's 10th annual fall dinner in New York City, hosted by Marlo Thomas.
Wow, what a great night. I'm so excited to be standing here in front of these American flags. God bless America.
The evening featured a salute to the gay and lesbian police officers and firefighters who were part of the rescue effort in the aftermath of the September 11th terrorist attack.
You like 30? 30,000. How about 35 now?
$750,000 were raised, of which $175,000 was presented to then New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani to be used as relief funds for victims of September 11th, including the surviving partners and families of gay and lesbian victims.
I can't tell you how much I thank you for the amount of money that you've given to the people who have lost the most in this terrible tragedy, and how much I respect you for expanding freedom for all of us. Thank you, and God bless you.
In December, GMAD, or Gay Men of African Descent, commemorated their 15th anniversary with a Crystal Celebration, an evening honoring individuals and organizations that have made significant contributions to the African-American gay community.
GMAD is this country's oldest and largest organization committed to empowering gay men of African descent in education, health and wellness, advocacy, and social support.
The honorees included journalist Linda Villarosa, the Gay Officers Action League and Fire Flag EMS for their work in the September 11th rescue effort.
It's a very hard job to come out in as a gay man.
Adodi New York, a community-based spirituality and health and wellness organization for black gay men in New York City, and Pulitzer Prize winner and In the Life correspondent Jonathan Capehart, who was presented with his award by newly elected Mayor Mike Bloomberg, on whose campaign Capehart served as policy advisor. The evening concluded with a posthumous award to Bayard Rustin, civil rights leader and architect of the 1963 March on Washington, whose life partner, Walter Nagel, accepted on his behalf.
Thank you very much, Michael, for those kind words.
The new documentary, Out of the Closet, Off the Screen, The Life of William Haynes, tells the story of a forgotten star of the silent era.
In 1933, Billy Haynes was the toast of Hollywood, America's top box office draw. He was also a homosexual who lived openly, some said brazenly, with his male lover, Jimmy Shields.
Under pressure from MGM head Louis B. Mayer to give up his lover, Haynes refused.
I'll be glad to give up Jimmy, just as long as you give up your own wife.
With that wisecrack, Billy Haynes' stardom was snuffed out.
Produced by the award-winning team of Randy Barbado and Fenton Bailey, the documentary premieres this month on American Movie Classics.
If your child came to you and said they were gay, so what I want Orthodox parents to be able to say is, there are other ways to read the Torah. Let's learn.
The groundbreaking documentary Trembling Before God has been touring around the world since early 2001, earning praise from critics and winning awards at multiple festivals.
I don't want to be a less than Jew because I'm gay.
Unfortunately, last July, it closed the San Francisco Jewish Film Festival, where it drew a capacity crowd to the historic Castro Theater in the heart of San Francisco's gay district.
The entire Torah is here to teach us that man and wife come together and become one. It is a very strange thing to be wired a different way where that just does not happen.
Trembling tells the personal stories of gay and Hasidic and Orthodox Jews who face a profound dilemma: how to reconcile their love of Judaism with the drastic biblical prohibitions against homosexuality. The documentary went on to have an extended run at the Film Forum in New York City, where it broke box office records for opening day. Community outreach efforts continue to bring the film to the Hasidic and Orthodox communities in the U.S., Israel, and around the world.
In 1968, a groundbreaking new play about a group of gay friends celebrating a birthday opened in New York. It was Mark Crowley's The Boys in the Band, and it changed the American theater forever. Not only was this the first mainstream play to take a close and unabashed look at queer culture, but perhaps even more importantly, the play was also a commercial success, proving to producers that plays with gay themes could actually be profitable and really funny. I'm Paul Rudnick, and you're watching In the Life.
Still to come on In the Life, Oscar-winning writer Alan Ball and Harvey Fierstein is straight up about who's gay in Hollywood. But first, before the 1970s, images of gay men and lesbians were nearly invisible, much less marketable. But the decade following the 1969 Stonewall Rebellion was a time when many gay Americans came alive politically. During those years, a photographer named Jeb and a recording company called Olivia Records saw the awakening of lesbian ideas and identity and knew it was the stuff of history. Our next segment from the In the Life archives first aired in 1998. We went back in time through snapshots and sounds with two of the most important chroniclers of the early lesbian feminist movement.
I was always most interested in photographing within the communities of which I was a part, and primarily that was the lesbian community, the feminist community, the progressive community, working in anti-war and anti-nuclear issues.
Jeb is a Washington, D.C.-based artist who has been taking pictures since 1971.
My work has always been about making the invisible visible. And because lesbians were so invisible, they were always my first subject
of choice, and of course nearest to my heart.
In 1979, Jeb broke new ground in lesbian visibility with the publication of her book, Eye to Eye, Portraits of Lesbians.
Lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender people need to be represented in all our diversity, and that in itself is an activist statement.
Her second book, Making Away Lesbians Out Front, features the leaders, artists, and everyday heroes of the lesbian community. Since her photo documentary of the 1987 March on Washington was transferred to videotape and broadcast on public television, she now prefers to work in video.
I decided to become a video maker because the pictures wanted to talk.
Jeb's photos, mementos, and videos were gathered for a retrospective of her work, which inaugurated George Washington University's Gay and Lesbian History Project.
Things changed. Things really changed. And I'm, like, very proud of that, being part of that change.
While photography served to document the 70s wave of lesbian feminism, there was also music.
What happened in the 70s was that women came into their own and came into their own sense of sexuality, their own sense of culture, their own sense of liberation and independence.
My beautiful soul, and my beautiful soul is weeping.
It was as if the collective unconscious had erupted, and suddenly the music was sort of a focal point for women throughout the country. We started Olivia in 1973, and it was a group of 10 lesbian feminists.
First goal of Olivia Records is to get the music out. Second goal of Olivia Records...
What music?
Women's music. High quality women's music. Music that speaks honestly and realistically to women, about women's lives, to women's lives.
By the end of 1975 and the beginning of 1976, where the concerts went from 50 and 100 people to thousands of people all across the country. In the fall of 1975, we released our second album, which was our best-selling album ever, which was The Changer and the Changed. Changer and the Changed charted on the Billboard charts. There was a response to the music that was unheard of in independent music. When we started Olivia, we used the term women's music quite on purpose because, number one, it was too scary a time to just start out with something that said lesbian.
God puts it in the same category as murderers, thieves, prostitution, and if we give special privileges to homosexuals, then we have to give it to the murderer, to the thief, and to the prostitute.
When we made our, I think it was our 5th album, it was in reaction to Anita Bryant, and it was called Lesbian Concentrate. What we were saying when we made Lesbian Concentrate was that we were also a political entity, and it was the first time that many of these women had come out and said, I am a lesbian, and this was in 1977. We developed an independent industry where we created the producers to produce concerts, we created the distributors to get the records into the stores, and grew an audience so that when the industry was really interested, there was already a market ready for the music. You know, you go to a Melissa Etheridge concert and the percentage of women is overwhelming. And the Lilith event is now seen as a major event of women performing on the same stage.
While Olivia Records, as of 1990, has been transformed into Olivia Cruz's, the history has been recorded and the music continues to be distributed.
You throw the pebble in the water and you see it drop in and then you see the ripple effects, but you may never know where that pebble, where the original pebble started, but all of a sudden it grows and it grows.
Olivia has been cruising the world for 11 years now and recently celebrated its 30th anniversary as a company. Jeb's current documentary is titled No Secret Anymore, The Times of Del Martin and Phyllis Lyon. It's about the two women who founded the Daughters of Bilitis, a lesbian activist group, during the height of McCarthyism.
I'm Elin Harris, and you're watching In the Life.
American Beauty, which won the Academy Award for Best Picture of 1999, is a dark comedy which portrays the true angst behind the idyllic facade of suburban life. In the film, Kevin Spacey's character faces a midlife crisis and grapples with forbidden passions. Screenwriter Alan Ball, who also took home an Oscar for his work, has made a successful career of writing about people struggling with inner conflict. And sometimes they happen to be gay, like one of the main characters in the popular new series he created for HBO. HBO's newest hit, 6 Feet Under, is about a family who live and work in a small family-run funeral home called Fisher & Sons. When their father dies and leaves the business to his two sons, they are forced, for perhaps the very first time, to take a hard look at the dysfunction that exists within their family.
I've done a terrible thing.
How's she doing? She's fine.
I'm not fine. I'm a whore. I was unfaithful to your father for years, and now he knows.
Alan Ball is the creator of HBO's 6 Feet Under. Although he began his professional career as an off-Broadway playwright, he is best known for his Oscar-winning screenplay and hit movie, American Beauty. He grew up in the small town of Marietta, Georgia, where he says his early sense of drama was influenced by some of the great Southern playwrights, like Truman Capote and Tennessee Williams.
You know, there's such a great tradition of Southern writers who were gay, who write these great, you know, kind of Baroque, Gothic, almost Greek dramas or novels.
Alan's journey to Hollywood and subsequent success was for him totally unexpected.
I had written a play called 5 Women Wearing the Same Dress, which was a sort of bittersweet comedy about bridesmaids at this big society wedding in Knoxville, Tennessee. And a development executive for Carsey Warner Television had gotten a copy of the script and read it. About a year later, my agent called out of the blue, and I had a job offer to come out to Hollywood and be a writer on the second season of Grace Under Fire, which was a sitcom about a Southern woman. I never intended to come out here. I never wanted to come out here. I loved movies, and I wanted to write movies, but I never was a person who was like, I want to make it in that industry.
In 6 Feet Under, one of Alan's complex creations is David, a 31-year-old gay Episcopalian who tries to keep his sexuality a secret from his family, even after they encourage him to come out.
The guy just cruised you.
Really?
Right in front of me like I'm not even here.
Alan drew from his early experiences growing up gay in Georgia to create a character who is faced with coming to terms with the fact that his religion is not compatible with his sexuality.
So glad to see you here. It's always nice when someone comes back to the fold.
Oh, I've been going to church. I was just going to a different church.
Really? Which one?
St. Stephen's?
In the Palisades?
No, St. Stephen's in West Hollywood.
Well, I hope you always feel as welcome here as you did there.
There's a big part of me and David. You know, I grew up, we didn't go to church very much, and then there was a tragedy in my family, and all of a sudden we started going to church all the time. My mom especially got into that really sort of Gothic end of the world religion, and you know, and it's all very judgmental, and it's like we're sinners, you know, God forgive us who we are, and that's a very sort of victim-centered way of thinking about things, I think, which also was very interesting to me, because I think as being gay, it's also very easy to get into a victim-centered way of thinking. You know, it's like, oh, it's so unfair, the world is unfair to me, you know, I'm the victim of all this oppression, and yada, 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 yada. Yes, there are a lot of people in the world who hate us, but I'm not going to be a victim. I'm not going to buy into that.
Let me never be ashamed. Oh, there's a concept. I've been ashamed my entire life. I grew up thinking I was unworthy in the eyes of God instead of trusting God. Not to be an ignorant, frightened bigot. Because of this, I've made myself crazy. I've put myself in danger. I've made a lot of mistakes, big mistakes, which all could have been avoided if I just had faith. Faith that maybe God really is love, like we say. How am I supposed to spread God's love throughout the world when I deny it to myself?
I made David religious is because it's very interesting to me what's going on politically within the world of organized religion. I read that, you know, some council of ministers has, you know, come together and put out this decree saying, you know, that homosexual behavior is incompatible with Scripture. You people do not have the right to deny me access to God. If I want a relationship with God, I'm going to have a relationship with God because God made me, and the God that I believe in is not cruel enough to say, you know, just because of the luck of the draw or whatever, I'm going to make you this thing that I hate. I don't believe in that God.
While relying heavily on his instincts, Alan is never afraid to explore his own inner conflicts. He's also not afraid to embrace his anger when it rises to the surface. His frustration resulted in the Oscar-winning screenplay of the best film of 1999, American Beauty.
I have a lot of anger, and you know, my work is a big conduit for that, I think. And I think that's probably, you know, it's a lot healthier than like driving down the freeway and shooting at people. But I had spent 3 years working on a sitcom, Sybil, which was a very unpleasant experience for me. I would come home and I would be furious more at myself than anybody, because I felt like I've become a whore. I'm a huge whore. I'm doing this stuff that I don't believe in, that I think there are serious ethical problems with, and I'm doing it for the money. 2 o'clock in the morning, I would sit down at my computer and I would pour all this rage into it, you know, and it kept me sane. It's no coincidence that American Beauty is about a man who is a writer who has lost his passion for life, who rediscovers it. And in writing that script, I rediscovered my passion for my work.
By reigniting his own passion, Alan created a shocking revelation in American Beauty, a story born from something deep in his own family history.
When I came out to my mom, she told me that she thought my dad might have been gay. My dad was a man who had some sort of secret tragedy that haunted him, and there was something that had broken his spirit.
Inspired by his own father's story, Alan was intrigued by the idea of what can happen when a man refuses to allow himself to admit his deepest, most inner feelings.
In the first draft of American Beauty, there was a flashback to Vietnam where the colonel, as a younger man, is in a tent with a fellow soldier, and they're in the middle of making love, and they get ambushed, and then they run out, and he sees his lover die. And in my mind, what he did was he took that as some sort of sign from God that he had to be punished for that, and he had to sit on that. And then years later, when he has this beautiful young son who he adores, he thinks that he's becoming something that he couldn't allow himself to become. We removed that flashback to Vietnam because it totally tipped where the story was going. I think I just needed to write it because I needed to know his backstory.
Having earned the respect of his peers and Hollywood for his work on American Beauty, Alan is at a new crossroads in his career.
Being the Oscar winner now, the good thing about it is all of a sudden people pay attention to what I think. you know, whereas before I won the Oscar, if I was a writer, I'd go, you know, I'd get notes on the script and I'd go, well, I really think that, you know, that changes it, and that like sort of defangs it, and it becomes just sort of arbitrary and generic. And before the Oscar, they'd be like, no, it doesn't do that, it makes it better. And now that I have the Oscar, they'll go like, oh, okay, well then don't do it. You know, it's like they trust you because you have this statue.
What do you think about that, Ball? What do you think about him?
With the help of Academy Award-winning actress turned director Kathy Bates, Alan is readying the new season of 6 Feet Under, which begins airing in March on HBO. And with yet another hit project under his belt, Alan Ball is now one of the most sought-after writers in the industry.
I have gotten to a point in my life where I am very, very comfortable in my own skin, and I'm not living my life for anybody else. And that, you know, and that I just am who I am. I didn't get lost along the way. Well, I got lost along the way, but I found my way back.
Next month on In the Life, gay men and lesbians who are taking the lead, so be sure to join us. Next, Harvey Fierstein gives it to us straight.
I appear at lots of colleges, community groups, political events and such. When I'm done speaking on the selected subject, I open the floor to questions from the audience. What do they want to know? Well, after the obligatory, what was it like to kiss Matthew Broderick, I'm asked, is so-and-so gay? I could have just spoken for an hour on the state of AIDS in Africa, the influence of lesbian writers on tabloid journalism, or the effect of bareback sex on our communal psyche, and still, a hand will rise up, a voice will call out. Is so-and-so gay? Is this one gay? Is that one gay? Who's really gay? Is everyone gay? I would like to take this opportunity for once and for all to end this entire line of questioning here, now, and forevermore. Are you listening? Because I'm only going to say this once, and then I'm done. Ready? Here goes. Sean Hayes is straight. David Hyde Pierce is straight. Kevin Spacey, straight. John Travolta, Johnny Depp, Tom Cruise, Tom Selleck, Richard Chamberlain, Richard Gere, straight. All straight. Every last lady-loving one of them is a full-time, girl-watching, dame-dating, heterosexual, straight as a #2 Ticonderoga pencil right out of the box. Got it? As for the ladies, Rosie O, Jodie Foster, Whitney Houston, Sandra Bernhard, Whoopi, Melissa, KD, and Barbara Walters, straight. All truly straight. That whole thing with Ellen DeGeneres was just a ratings ploy. Plus, she thought she'd help her mother sell a book. Well, David Letterman does it for his mom. But Ellen is actually straight. In fact, Ellen is so straight, she makes Anne Hesh look like a lesbian, which, let me be clear, she is not. Now for the bisexual crowd. The Elton Johns, Mick Jaggers, David Bowie's, Madonnas, and the like. Let me just say, they too are all actually heterosexual. That's right, every one of them, full-time sex mixers. And the ones you've heard about in herstory class. The Da Vinci, Michelangelo, Gertrude Stein, James Baldwin, Shakespeare, Tchaikovsky, Eleanor Roosevelt, and Liberace crowd. They too are, were, and will always be straight. And finally, me. I'm heterosexual too. You heard me, Buster. I'm as straight as Colin Powell inspecting the troops. So for those of you at home keeping score, on the homosexual side we have Charles Nelson Riley and you. On the straight side, the rest of us. Charles Nelson Riley and you are the only 2 homosexuals in the world. The rest of us were just being nice, trying to keep you company and not make you feel like the outcast you are. You're gay. We're not. Sorry. Have a nice day. I trust all queries have now been answered. Yes? Good. Oh, by the way, about that kissing Matthew Broderick thing, the answer is obviously delicious.
From all of us at In the Life, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next month.
In the Life is funded in part by the H. Van Ameringen Foundation. Additional support provided by the Gill Foundation, the Ted Snowden Foundation, the Otto Haas Charitable Trust, the Overbrook Foundation, the Rainbow Endowment, William J. Resnick, Jeff Soroff, the Arcus Foundation, and the annual support of In the Life members like you.